People like you don't belong here. Those were the words I heard from the mouth of Malene Cross, the HOA president, right before she tried to kick me off the very ranch I had built from nothing. Land I'd bought for 20 cents a square foot turned into a $15 million miracle and poured every ounce of my grief and determination into. I sat there in that sterile conference room, the hum of fluorescent lights buzzing overhead, feeling like I was being interrogated while outside the window stretched the acres of green that had saved me. Everything I'd created, everything I'd fought for was suddenly under threat, and they wanted it gone. To understand how it got to that point, you need to know where it began. My name's Caleb Morgan. I was 42 when I walked away from a Silicon Valley career and a life that had already fallen apart. My wife Emily had died of cancer, and with her went every reason I thought I had for staying in the world I'd built. I bought land no one wanted, 50 acres along Lake Pinewood, Colorado, poisoned by years of mining. They called it worthless. To me, it looked exactly like how I felt inside, broken, empty, lifeless. I figured maybe if I could breathe life back into the dirt, I could somehow breathe life back into myself. It didn't take long before I met her. She rolled up in a black BMW, stepping out like she owned the whole damn county. Perfect suit hair pinned high, smile sharp enough to cut glass. "I'm Malene Cross," she said, her handshake colder than the mountain air. She spoke about community standards, but her tone wasn't neighborly. It was a warning. As she drove off, my neighbor Tom Bradley shuffled over from his property line. Weathered hands, tired eyes. "That woman ain't no community rep," he muttered. "She's the one who cost me my home." "Watch yourself." I should have listened harder. For a while I kept my head down. Built a hidden lab disguised as a tool shed, sensors tucked inside fake rocks, underground hydroponics buried beneath grass so green it looked like a golf course. I wasn't just farming, I was resurrecting. By the time I was pulling 2 tons of vegetables a month, chefs were lining up to buy. I thought I was invisible. I thought wrong. HOA inspectors showed up with clipboards and smirks quoting bylaws about aesthetics and land use. Bureaucracy as a weapon. Then I found a tracking device under my truck. They weren't just nosy, they were hunting me. So I decided to fight back in my own way. I introduced bees, 15 colonies. On paper, it was for pollination and honey. In reality, they were my alarm system. And my gamble paid off. That honey won first place at the Colorado State Fair, cameras flashing local news calling me a miracle farmer. Suddenly, I wasn't some recluse tinkering in the dirt. I had a profile, which meant taking me down quietly wasn't going to be so easy for them. And that made Malene furious. One night, under a moonless sky, I woke to a sound I'll never forget, the collective roar of thousands of angry bees. By the time I stumbled outside, men with sledgehammers were smashing my hives. My bees fought back, swarming like a storm chasing them down the gravel road. The chaos went viral, grown men running from a cloud of fury broadcast across the internet within hours. Sympathy poured in from strangers. But I wasn't celebrating. Half my colonies were gone, the survivors buzzing frantically around broken wood, and the cameras I'd hidden. They caught every second, including the face of Rick Molina, a maintenance worker for the HOA, swinging a hammer like he was demolishing condemned property. That was the first time I realized the HOA wasn't just pushing papers. They were willing to get their hands dirty, ugly, dirty. And I'll admit, I broke then. Sitting in the wreckage of my hives, I started thinking maybe I'd made a mistake. Maybe I was just a fool trying to farm poisoned land. The lawsuits, the threats, the endless pressure, it was grinding me down. Then came the call. A distorted voice, cold as ice. "Stop digging, or you'll have the same accident as your wife." My blood froze. Was Emily's cancer really just bad luck? Or had these people been poisoning us all along? I remember gripping the phone so hard my knuckles turned white, thinking maybe it's time to sell, to run, to finally give up. But that's when Maria Santos walked into my kitchen. Tom's daughter, lawyer, steel in her spine, fire in her eyes. She laid documents across my table, corporate records linking Malene straight back to Apex Mining, the very company that had poisoned this land. "She's not just harassing you," Maria said. "She orchestrated the sale. She wanted you trapped here." Suddenly, it wasn't about my farm anymore. It was about every family she'd ruined, every drop of water she was scheming to steal. I looked at Maria, at Tom, and I knew I couldn't walk away. Not anymore. The war escalated. Malene filed a $2 million lawsuit accusing me of environmental violations, unlicensed farming, water theft, you name it. She thought she could bury me in paperwork. But Jessica Harper, an investigative journalist, picked up the story. Brett Williams, a tech guy I'd partnered with, used his app to map contamination across the state. Data poured in proving systematic poisoning tied to Malene's shell companies. And Rick Molina flipped. Facing prison, he testified that the HOA had ordered him to sabotage wells, destroy crops, terrorize anyone who resisted. The puzzle pieces were snapping into place, and they all pointed straight at her. By the time we hit the courthouse, the air was electric. Cameras crowded the steps, protest signs. Waved families who'd lost everything came to watch. Inside, Judge Martha Williams presided like she was commanding an army. Malene strutted in with her army of lawyers, polished shoes, smug faces. They thought this was just another easy win. They had no idea what was coming. Maria stood up first. Calm, steady. Then she dropped the bomb. For months, she'd been working undercover with the FBI, recording every call, every email, every shady deal Malene made. The look on Malene's face, I'll never forget it. The color drained right out of her. Then, Brett plugged in his laptop, showing maps lighting up with contamination hotspots, all traced to Malene's companies. A living, breathing map of environmental crime. You could feel the jury shifting in their seats. And then the nail in the coffin, Rick Molina on the stand pointing at Malene. She gave the orders he said. She told me to smash those hives, to poison wells, to scare people until they broke. The courtroom went silent. And, as if that wasn't enough, Maria played the recordings. Malene's own voice filled the room, cold and calculating, talking about eliminating stubborn residents, bragging about breaking families until they sold. It was like listening to a mob boss, not a community president. Judge Williams didn't waste time. She ordered Malene's immediate arrest. The federal marshals moved fast, snapping cuffs around her wrists as her lawyers scrambled, faces pale. One moment, she was the queen of the HOA, untouchable. The next, she was just another criminal dragged out of the courtroom to face charges of arson, racketeering, environmental terrorism, even conspiracy to commit murder. The same crowd that had once feared her now cheered as she was taken away. And me, I just sat there, hands trembling, heart pounding, watching the monster who had tried to crush me finally fall. No celebration, no champagne. Just the weight of knowing justice had landed hard. My land was safe. My bees would rebuild. And Malene Cross would never control another family again. The lesson: when corruption hides behind rules and titles, the only way to win is to drag it into the light.